Good evening, SVSers, and good afternoon if you're on the West Coast or around the world. Good morning. We're back with another SVS virtual audiophile happy hour. Gary, Larry, how are we doing, gentlemen?
Hey, everybody.
Howdy, guys.
So happy to be here.
Love this, our bi-weekly ritual. And as we typically do, Gary, if you'd like to share a few words with the people, just get things started here before we roll into our very interesting set of topics today.
Well, we're like in month 4 of coronavirus heck, and you know, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that we know some people out there are suffering, and some people are have lost their jobs or other forms of hardship. Maybe you've even lost loved ones. So in no way, shape, or form are we lightening up on the current situation. This is all about us wanting to just share our happiness about great sound and share our love for what we call the SVS community. So we always look forward to these. And
we do. We absolutely do. And
this looks like a fun one, just based on some of the topics kicking around.
I know we have a fun guest, and we have some fun comments coming in. So we're gonna keep things light and happy. And just so anyone who might be tuning in for the very first time, the way we do things here, we sort of just have a free-flowing conversation, introduce some of the questions that are coming through the comments. We will have 4 giveaways this evening that we do at random, and I do have to give a shout out to Vince Marks, who's behind the scenes. He's another member of the SVS team who helps sort of work things that aren't being shown here in person. And Larry, what are we doing for giveaways this evening?
We as you said, we have 4, and we're going to start off the evening with a pair of prime elevation speakers. We are going to move from there to a PB 1000 series subwoofer. And then from there we move to a prime wireless sound base, and then we are going to end the evening with an SB 2000 Pro subwoofer. So we are going to have some fun with these products tonight, guys.
Very, very nice. And anyone who did join us 2 weeks ago may have remembered we spent a good amount of time asking you for selections for songs that we could include on a SVS Audiophile Happy Hour playlist. And it makes me proud to share the fact that we've got 8 hours and 25 minutes worth of songs here on our Spotify channel. And so that's a whole
from you guys. This is from the SVS community.
Just stay home and listen to all these. It's a really kind of cool mix of tracks from Gangnam Style to Spoon to George Gershwin, the Sex Pistols, Stevie Wonder, Radiohead. I mean, geez, you guys are all over the place, and we love it. So check that out. We will be posting this link. I actually have it right here. But if you can't copy and paste this, we'll be sharing it on our social and our newsletter and everywhere else that we can reach you guys. So encourage you to check that out. And we're not done. So if you don't see your song on there, please don't get angry at us. It's a work in progress.
Get angry at Vince. He didn't get around to your song.
Yeah,
he will.
That's right. You know, he's too busy doing other stuff too. But we will get as many of the tracks that you guys suggested there. But so far, I'm loving it. And 8 hours and 25 minutes should give you a good head start at listening there. So I encourage everyone to check that out, the SVS Spotify channel. I should also mention that we have a number of other playlists on there as well that highlight different songs that have really sort of notable bass tracks from various genres of music. So spend some time listening to the SVS Spotify stations there and have some fun with that. So thank you for all your contributions
too. So if you sign up for a free Spotify account, you just search up that playlist and you'll be able to access it.
That's totally right.
I'm told you don't have to actually have Spotify to access playlists. You can still do it. So you can still see the playlist.
Very, very true. And Larry, looks like you got a sort of a Deep Tracks t-shirt there on today, huh? Like, I'm not sure anyone's going to get that reference, but there's a personal story there, is there not?
I'm making a break from the traditional goofy shirt tonight to get a little sentimental, I guess, because we do have someone on talking music tonight. And so the shirt I'm wearing tonight is from my personal favorite band, Flicker Stick. And they are a local band out of Dallas who, if it weren't for them, I would not have met my wife. So my wife and I will be celebrating 20 years together next year. And so I was happy that I still fit in a 20-year-old t-shirt too. Made me feel pretty good.
Didn't you celebrate a birthday recently too? Is that true?
I don't know what you're speaking of, sir.
Happy birthday!
We're not going to sing.
You.
We made a pact never to sing on the actual happy hour there.
Everybody
don't want me to sing.
No, God no, please not.
But Larry's birthday.
So happy birthday to Larry. Leave him some birthday wishes in the comments.
How old are you, Larry? 58, did you say?
I feel 19 or act like I'm 15 sometimes, but a whopping 42.
42. Wow.
You don't look a day over 39.
Yeah, that's why I keep the beard, so I don't look like a chubby, balding 13-year-old.
Good. Well, it's working for you. It's your signature
Good
look there.
Larry.
I think
Don't
people
let
love
anyone
it.
tell you different.
And I know nobody's called it out, but it is the first time I put on a button-down shirt in about I don't know, 5 months. And I have to give a shout out to my mom. She's been watching all of these and leaving comments. And Mom, you're not eligible for the giveaway, so don't try to sneak in there. But I put on my my button-down shirts, and I have to say I love you, Ma. Thanks for tuning in. So we're just all about the love today. Anyone you want to show love to? Gary, you had a son who had a birthday recently too. Am I right?
My mom doesn't even know what I do for a living. I'm impressed that your mom is on watching the show here.
I think she just wants to visit me more often, and so this is her virtual way of doing so. And now I actually talk to her, so I guess there's a step in the right direction. But it's been still spending more time at home, and I know we've all been into some different content. And Larry, you were teasing me offline a little bit about what you've been checking out recently. What you've been listening to?
Well, we've been doing some Netflix and listening to some music, and during our little lunch break today between meetings, my wife and I got started on season 2 of Umbrella Academy. So if you're not watching that, it's a really interesting show. And I don't listen to a ton of recent music because I've been, forever listening to sports, but I've been getting into music again with being home and not being any sports. And I've been listening to The Weeknd's new album. I know it's not new, but for me, it's new, and really digging heavy into that one. And my neighbors know when I got it on.
I can only imagine how your neighbors feel about having you next door. That's probably a wonderful thing at times, and other times not so much. Gary, what you been tuning into?
I'm hesitating to share it because Larry's going to dump on me, but I watched Kissing Booth 1, which is the Netflix, and then the next day I watched Kissing Booth 2. So I'm super embarrassed. But actually, it's very much fun, and we sometimes advertise on Howard Stern, and Howard was talking about it, and that's why I did it. On a more serious vein, I got my Bob Dylan on vinyl, the latest Rough and Rowdy Ways, the new Bob Dylan album, and was able to listen to that on vinyl. It just sounds so great. And to go back to my teenage girl mentality, I really adore the new Taylor Swift album, and I don't think I'm the only one. Everyone's talking about it. And there was also a really cool documentary that just dropped on Showtime about the 80s girl group called the Go-Go's. I don't know if you guys remember.
I do.
It's a very entertaining special, so I had a lot of fun with that.
Very cool. Good assortment there. And my assortment's
my manly self going. I am rewatching a little bit of The Sopranos.
So there, yeah, you actually mentioned that during one of our team meetings today. You dropped a Tony Soprano quote on us, which I found to be a nice departure from some of the normal corporate sort of stuff we talked about. So that was nice.
Are you saying CEOs aren't usually quoting Tony Soprano on purpose?
Yeah. Well, we should be careful how we frame that up. Yeah, it wasn't a threat. Let's just be clear there. It was more of an inspirational quote. So
there you go.
Kudos to you. And my watch list and listen list is a little bit or no less embarrassing. I've been trying to bond with my 16-year-old, and you know how tough that can be. But he's turned me into a Trailer Park Boys enthusiast. I won't say I'm a big-time fan, but there is a lot of Trailer Park Boys out there, and we're sort of diving into different movies and aspects of that, which is mindless entertainment at the end of a long day. Who doesn't like a little bit of that? I'm still into Dark. A lot of seasons there that we're getting through, so excited about that. And then my most embarrassing moment for my young one, we've been streaming Disney soundtracks on Amazon Music HD at the Ultra HD level. And I did drop this note yesterday, but I was almost in tears from The Little Mermaid. Some of that singing that they do there just really hits me right here. We like to do all different things from Trailer Park Boys to Little Mermaid, and it's just all about the fun there. So
I mean, are you finding that you're running out of stuff to watch? Because I sure am. I'm like trying to find stuff. I watch TV only really during my workout, but even then I'm running out of things.
I find myself expanding my horizons. I don't know. What about you, Larry?
Yeah,
things I never thought I would ever want to watch. I'm now like, we might as well give it a shot.
And between HBO Max, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, whatever else I have, there's content on, and basketball is back, which I saw a couple people mention, and the Mavericks,
and baseball and hockey.
So, yeah. Unfortunately, the
Yeah.
Rangers aren't doing too good. So.
I'm watching the Caps lose right now. I've got them on a TV in the background here.
Well, let's stay focused, Gary. Though no
I'm sorry.
multitasking with the Caps. We got early season hockey.
They're just in the corner of my eye. That's all.
Top of the agenda here. But one thing I did want to say I'm excited about, which I saw today, there is a Frank Zappa documentary. And if you know who Frank Zappa is, I mean, he's just such a quirky character. So I'm interested to hear a little bit more about his life than
What's
I
that
already
on,
know.
Nick?
What's that?
What channel?
That'll be on Netflix. It's not launching till around Thanksgiving. They just sort of are doing a little bit of a teaser now. But Frank Zappa is one of those characters who's just got a lot of interesting things going on. So I'll be checking that one out when it drops here in a few months.
We got some Capitals fans, Nick. Watch out.
Oh, we do. Well, Don't let me throw any shade on the Caps. I mean, it's certainly good to have sports back, but I just want to keep you focused there. And if they score, maybe you'll smile, Gary. That'll be nice.
I think they don't look too good. But anyway, you're right. I'm digressing.
So we're gonna sort of the first topic we want to dive into here. I think for some people it might be I guess common knowledge as terms of home theater goes, but really it's an important thing to sort of understand when you're really getting started with home theater, and that really is what does the 5.1 mean versus 7.2.2 versus all these various arrays that you can have with a home theater. So I think we should just sort of back it up. And Gary, maybe you start us off just talking about, what is 5.1 versus 7.2.2 versus, all those other number sequences you get in the home theater setup world.
Okay. Well, I think I think we have a mix of people who are way down the path of home theater enthusiasts and audiophile, and then there's some that are maybe more getting started. So just to define our terms first, the first number is the full range channels that are in the home theater that are, I guess, on the same level as your ears. That's the 5 in the 5.1 or the 7 in the 7.1, and we can explain what those are in a minute. Then the next one is how many subwoofers you have. That's that simple. And Roy, who's going to be on our, he's our guest coming up, he was pointing out, that, and he's right, that there's always only one subwoofer channel, but you could have more than one subwoofer, and there are benefits to that. So when I say I have a 5.1 system, it means I have 5 full range speakers in the home theater and 1 subwoofer. If I say I have 5.2, then I have 2 subwoofers. Even though it's only 1 bass channel going to those 2 subwoofers, it smooths the room response. Now we add, when we add height effects, the third digit. So if it's 5.1.2, we're saying 5 full range channels that are all at your ear level, 1 subwoofer, and then that final 0.2 is 2 height effects speakers. So once you know that, you can figure out anything. My current main home theater, I have 7.1.4. What that means is that I have 7 full range speakers that are at ear level. I have 1 subwoofer, my SB16 Ultra, and I have 4 height effect speakers hanging from my ceiling. Now those 7 speakers, Larry, why don't you say what the 7 main speakers are? I mean, you actually could talk about the height effects too. You always do a good job with that.
Well, the conventional, that first number, like you're saying, will be the conventional setup in your room. And normally most people will start with 5 speakers. So you'll have your 2 front left and right, your center channel for your dialogue, and then 2 speakers behind you or on the side of you for your surround speakers. And if you add additional speakers to that, it would typically be surround back, which would be speakers that would be even further behind you. Or if you're kind of moving into the height effects space where you're getting into that 0.1, 0.2 setup, there'll be speakers that are up above you. And they'll either be your height speakers in front of you or something above you in the ceiling between your front and sitting position, or maybe even something behind you. In my case, they're on the sides in the middle. And so those are my height effects. So it really comes down to where you can kind of put them in your room and how you set them up in your receiver. And every receiver is also different in that sense as well. But you've got your main listening position, and then the height effects are kind of what gives you a little bit more of immersion and more of a realistic lifelike experience.
And I think we could go ahead, Gary.
Is it okay? I'm just going to kind of give people a sort of rule of thumb of what the different speakers do without getting into too granular detail. The
I think
front
we can
speaker,
dive into with Roey's system too, but let's do that bass overview now, and then I think with his system, which we're actually going to show, we can go deeper into it. But I think that first description would be good.
So I'm just going to give you guys a rule of thumb. The front speakers, if the speakers are in front of you, their job is to create a specific sound stage that corresponds with what you're seeing on screen, or if you're doing a 2-channel thing, what you're listening to. And everything needs to sound as though it's coming from a specific point in space, either from the 2 speakers, in between them, and possibly a little bit outside of them, but always from a specific point in space. The speakers that are to the side of you or behind you, they're more to create a sense of being somewhere, a sense of ambience and space and place. And they're going to have things like, if you're watching a movie, they might have things like birds chirping if you're outside, or a plane, the backwash of the jet engine in a plane, those kind of things. And it gives you that sense of being there. The final piece in the puzzle of this placement thing is the height effects that make that, instead of something that's 2-dimensional, meaning always at your ear level, now all of a sudden it becomes 3-dimensional from a point in space in the room, as though it might be above you and to the right, or above you and to the left, or at ear level and to the back. And now all of a sudden you really feel like you're immersed in the action. And then, of course, the subwoofer is really the ultimate thing that makes you feel like you're there with the action, because the subwoofer, as you know, creates very, very low frequencies, the deepest bass, so that you have a sense of not only hearing the sound, but literally feeling the sound, which matters a lot in certain kinds of music, but also in movies where you literally can feel the impact of things happening in addition to hearing them.
So I have a hunch we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the sort of entry-level information that you just gave with our guest. But before we bring out our guest, we do have to do our first giveaway of the evening, which I'm sure everyone is waiting patiently for. And the first giveaway we are doing, as Larry mentioned, is a pair of our Prime Elevation speakers, the world's most versatile high-performance speaker, and also one of the finest Dolby Atmos speakers, which is another topic we'll be diving into. And our winner tonight is from YouTube, Bill Montague. Bill Montague, congratulations. You are going to be rocking some height effects here shortly. Vince from our team will be reaching out, get your info. We'll take care of you in a very short order here.
Congratulations, Bill.
Bill, nice. You're going to be rocking now. And we're going to bring out our guest now. And I'm actually very excited. I met this gentleman at CES several years ago, and super excited to have him here on the program, coming to us from actually Capitol Studios in Los Angeles. We have Mr. Roey Hershkovitz. Roey, how are we doing today?
Fantastic. Nice to see you.
Welcome, Roey.
Thanks for having me.
And Roey, it's roughly 3:15 out there on the West Coast, and I see you're at work. So are they letting you have a real drink tonight, or what do you got going on in that cup?
This is my cup of coffee because we are in the studio.
I'm with you.
Work.
Yeah.
I'm drinking tea, Roey.
Oh, good for you.
Oh. I have an old
for now, Roey. Not necessarily the rest of the evening, but
I respect your choices. So
before we dive into, we appreciate you, bringing the energy, and before we dive into some of what you're doing there at Capitol Studios, why don't you tell us what you've been listening to recently? We always like to get a taste of what interest people have when we bring them on to the happy hour.
Yeah. What's been in the rotation? Well, it was Jerry Garcia's birthday recently, so
that's right.
A lot of Grateful Dead was being played around the house. Definitely enjoyed by only me. Boy, my kids really do not dig Jerry. So I've really been enjoying Glass Animals lately. I think I was late to the Glass Animals party, but they're quite good. So digging in there, of course, the new Tay-Tay. Gary, you're not the only one.
Good.
I'm there
very
too,
good.
guys. My wife got me hooked on it. There's a Rhode Island song in there too, and so that was enough to draw me in. And you know what? The production value, the skills are just there. I love it. Not afraid to admit.
And yeah, and Hamilton's fully back in rotation, obviously. My son especially is just obsessed.
How old is your son?
He is 8. I got an 8-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl, and they're, you know, my daughter is like so deep in the Billie Eilish thing. It's adorable. And she's like, Dad, I was number 357 to see her new music video right after it came out, and now it's got 20 million views. And
early adopter.
Really,
but you know, I say that Billie Eilish gives me hope for today's youth because I think she's a real deal. I think it's really good music.
100%. Great music, very well done, and she's a terrific singer too.
She really is.
So it's great. Checks a lot of boxes. And super young. It's inspiring.
It is.
Well, you have a very impressive backdrop there, Roey. I think people are noticing it's only slightly better than Gary's Peruvian, mat that he's got on the back there, which has got a great story. Don't get me wrong, but very impressive. And I'm going to pop a little screenshot on here too.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your role is with Capitol Studios? Maybe some projects you've worked on. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So right now you're
cool.
looking at Studio C. Which is just down the hall from the room that I'm in right now. I'm sitting in Studio A at Capitol. I mean, we have these wonderful, large, special, magical rooms, Studios A and B, a lot of amazing work and records have been made here, including, from Sinatra and Nat King Cole at the very beginning to Dylan and John Mayer more recently, and Migos. So we really, we cover a lot of territory here. There's 3 studios downstairs, 2 upstairs. I came on board just over a year ago from my stint, my previous stint at Conan, at the Conan O'Brien Show, and came on here overseeing studio operations and really hit the ground running. A lot of fun being had, and then more recently we sort of had to figure out how to do a little bit less when the Rona came into the picture in March, and now we're slowly warming things back up, which has been really great and exciting to see all the pieces coming back together and all the folks coming back together. And we're very deep in our social distancing and masked protocols and I mean, every surface.
You got to do it. I mean, you're working in a studio like that. There's clearly a lot of buttons being pressed. You take every precaution possible. And, I know you are a big Atmos enthusiast, and I won't make you divulge any super secret projects that you may be working on. But what is sort of your thought on the future of Atmos music? And is there a lot coming, or is it sort of hit a breaking point now? What's going on there?
No, I think it's a great question, and you're right. I mean, I think that's how we met. Right, was talking about Atmos, and certainly. Some of my proximity to that is how I ended up here at Capitol, because this is where a lot of I think the origin of mixing music in Atmos happened, starting with REM Automatic for the People, working very, very closely with Dolby, and in Studio C, which you showed earlier, which, as I said, is right down the hall. And when I came here as the enthusiast that I am, and I built a home theater in my house. Well, first I destroyed my living room, and then eventually moved it into a more proper home theater in what used to be our garage. And Atmos was really a very significant part of what pushed me from 2-channel audiophile lunatic into this immersive surround sound point of lunacy. But to answer your question, when I started here, there was really very little mechanism for people to be able to experience Atmos music. And at the time, like for me, it was if something came out on a Blu-ray disc, you'd grab it if you were a fan of it. Atmos was just starting to be streamed via Netflix and Amazon, right, and Apple TV content. So video was happening with streaming Atmos, but there
And
were
I think
not.
the earbuds too. They just started adding Atmos to the Apple personal listening devices too. Am I right?
That's
I think so.
yeah. Apple announced that their AirPod Pros, I think at the end of this year, will start. Will have the ability to play back immersive and Atmos as well.
So the
yeah,
hardware, that's a great, it's a great sign when you see the partners like that start adopting it as well.
For sure. I mean, if you think about it, a year ago, there was nothing in place. And then Amazon came on board with their Echo Studio, Tidal very soon after. And it's really, I've got the Echo Studios, which are terrific. And I have the Tidal by way of my Apple TV into my Marantz. And I know we'll get into my home theater, but, it's really terrific to be able to hear what we are mixing here in Studio C down the hall or Studio E upstairs. And we're spending, we're very focused, obviously, on a lot of mixing music in Atmos. And it's really a joy now to see it's fully available by way of a few outlets. And, we expect to see more options come into market as far as more ways that people will be able to experience.
Definitely
Atmos.
seems like it's in its infancy now. It seems like, we're on the cusp of it just becoming huge. And I'm very happy you brought up your home theater, because you did share.
I really wanted to ask Roey, are there any high profile Atmos music projects? It's a two-parter kind of. I can talk all day long about the benefit to a listener, to a viewer of a movie in Atmos. Can you help our audience understand the benefit of listening to straight music in Atmos? And are there a couple of high profile projects you can kind of mention? Certainly.
And I think that because for a lot of folks, it's, the question is, what is Atmos? And then when they ask it, there are some smarter questions that follow up. And so when you think about music, there's really, broadly speaking, without getting too granular here, as I know we might, and that's fine. There's really two approaches. And one is, Atmos is immersive and things can fly and move all around you. And when you're listening to a lot of contemporary pop music, it's extremely evident. And for us, oftentimes the benchmark is the Atmos better than the stereo? Are we providing something beyond the stereo experience? And we're, the weekend tracks were mixed here at Studio C, and some Sam Smith and Lil Wayne and Jonas Brothers. I mean, there's some really aggressive pop. I don't know if aggressive, you know what I'm saying? As far as use of the space, there are really, with contemporary music, pop music, some rock music, it makes sense to really use that space and get very creative. And we've done, Bee Gees tracks here as well that are.
You mean the space in the room, Roey?
Yeah,
space in the room.
Using the objects and placing them around the room. Now, when you think about jazz, and now I want to speak about the other half of that approach. When I came here first, I had been reading about Miles Davis' Kind of Blue had been done in Atmos. And as much as I'm a fan of Atmos, I was a little bit skeptical because I thought, I really don't want to hear Miles's trumpet flying around the room, because I think that would rub me the wrong way. And I came to learn and to work with Steve Genowick, one of our very talented engineers here, who worked specifically on that, about the reamping process. And the reamping process is really, it can take some of those more, organic genres like jazz and like classical, where that approach to moving things and placing things around the room might seem less appropriate. And when you take those albums and what we were able to do with Kind of Blue, and now with many other Blue Note titles that are available in Atmos, is to play them back into the studio and have an array of microphones laid out around the room and record the sound of the music being played back in the room, and then lay that into the Atmos experience with the original sources in front coming out of your LCR, and the experience is absolutely phenomenal, and without steering too far away from what feels organic and right when you're listening to jazz. And the difference is, it really makes it feel like, we spent a lot of time talking about how it feels in the control room to be listening right out of the left and right. And we want people to experience what we experience in the control room. And what I think we've really effectively done is now put the listener in the studio, in the live room. And when you listen to that, some of those jazz albums that are out there, that difference, which might seem subtle, it brings the air in the room all around you. And you've got the two completely different approaches to what can be achieved. And I think both of them are appropriately immersive, based on whatever genre it is you're looking for.
I could totally see that, and I don't want, you and I could probably go down a rabbit hole with this, but I could totally see that with like orchestral music, because there's all these inner voices and things going on, and you can't always hear it when you're playing it through two speakers. To be able to break it out there and bring those voices out, I could totally see that working really well.
Yeah, and that is one of the big comments that we hear a lot from folks. Elton John's Rocket Man, which was mixed here by Greg Penny, is definitely a touchstone. So a lot of times we'll get into a new room, or we want to play somebody something and give them an experience, and that definitely has become one of the top tracks for doing that. And that is available now streaming. And very often, one of the first things we'll hear, other than wow and oh bleep, this is amazing, is, oh, I never heard that before. And particularly, they're talking about a synthesizer part. But when it's pulled out into the room and that sound becomes more immersive, there's more space, right, for everything. It's less congested than the two single points in stereo. And so there's more opportunity to let the instrumentation and arrangement shine. It's really great to kind of be able to give people that oh crap moment. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here.
No, it is.
I think crap is a curse word. I think that's great. I love it. And there is a question, and then we should go to Roey's Theater. But I do think a lot of people are asking, or at least I saw several comments, how can you experience Atmos music now? And we know Tidal does it in their high def, I think in their premium tier, and Amazon's premium tier does it, and others I have heard are going to be doing it. So it's a thing. It's really going to be happening.
And I will add on to one of the areas that I hope, and I saw a couple comments for this too, that really picks up their game, especially now in the current environment we're in, is the live concert performances. That's where I think you can get an amazing Atmos experience. I know Larry and I are big fans of Rammstein in terms of what they can deliver in terms of that immersive pyrotechnics, so much just stuff going on. And, Gary, you're a big Tool fan. Not being able to get out to those concerts, the next best thing is putting it on in your 5.2.4, home theater, and turning the lights out. And maybe
I'm surprised there isn't more stuff coming out. Concerts. I've seen a lot of YouTube concerts and live streaming events, but I would have thought more stuff would come out on. There's some stuff like Hamilton.
Yeah. I mean, who says
there's Hamilton on Disney Plus, and there's other stuff, Beyonce's thing that just dropped. But I would have thought there'd be more, and I'm hoping there is more coming on Netflix. Netflix supports Atmos, as you know, and Disney Plus does, and Apple TV does. So Amazon. I'm looking forward to more of that.
Yeah. And get the Blu-ray,
because I remember, Nick, when I believe the last time I saw you. And we were having our chat, as we do when we see each other, about all things everything. And then in the middle of it, you're like, I'm going to put this Rammstein on right now. And I thought, that's something you don't see in a lot of demo spaces.
Yeah.
I can't help myself.
We're the guilty pleasure of CES.
We
Yeah,
are.
we just have to watch how much of that concert we play because it can get a little.
It gets a little well, probably even beyond R rated, but it's a lot of fun and a lot of energy, which I think for some of the stodgier versions of the audio shows, it can certainly bring a little spark there. So before we jump into your theater, Roey, which is has a lot to talk about, I did want to do a giveaway. We owe it to our people here. We're at the halfway point here. Next item we'll be giving away is one of our PB1000 subwoofers, and our winner of the PB1000 from Facebook, Alan King. Alan King, congratulations. Our boy Vince will be reaching out to you and taking care of you there. So
awesome.
Roey, you're a great guy. You have a great studio. You also have great subwoofers, and I want to take a minute here to pop on the screen real quick.
I really
your home theater, and there's a lot going on here. So let's let the people have a minute to take it all in and see what's going on here.
Can I walk the people through the components? Is that okay, or is that too nerdy?
Yeah, let's move through the components because we have some interesting questions. But yeah, let's do a quick little rundown of what you got here from the equipment side of things.
So Apple TV 4K, Oppo 4K disc player, going into the Marantz 8805A processor pre. And then from there, Emotiva amps. I have 3 mono blocks that you see there under the TV for my mains, and then 2 multi-channels for the rest of the floor and then the ceiling. So, and I don't know if I said this yet, this is a 914 layout. There's my heights, which is the...
but it's 924 in our opinion.
Okay, yeah, well, we can get into that. Is it 914 or 924? And I'm happy to have that conversation. I should point out, you see the actually that is Studio B on my home TV, and then you'll see above it a black bar that is a Screen Innovations motorized screen that comes down, and I have a JVC projector, and those are my Monitor Audio RX8 speakers that go all the way around the room. So my wides, and we can talk about wides because I think those are often overlooked and really an essential part of the playback after heights maybe. The 914, and then of course those 2 beauties that you see on either side of the center, I think is how we got here because just to wind up and get into it, I had 4 12-inch subwoofers from another brand because, in my mind it was, well, more is going to be more, and I felt something was lacking. So if I kept adding more, clearly I would get what I was missing, and something was not translating. And I think this is when Nick and I, or actually you mentioned the Stern Show. It was through the Stern Show I heard about SVS. I did my deep dive into SVS. And I thought, all right, I got to pull the trigger on this. So I got the SB16, and that one beast absolutely delivered everything that I was trying to achieve prior to that. And it was immediately when I thought, well, now we got to bring in a second sub and go dual because of knowing that all the added value, and I don't just mean more is more, of having.
What was the biggest impact? I think when you add a second, there's sort of the known, facts of adding a second. But as a personal experience, what did you notice?
Well, what I noticed from adding the first one was the response and the immediacy of the bass and the LFE in the space. That it was less congested and oppressive, if that makes sense, and that the air was breathing a little bit more freely, and the addition of the second sub really, how do you describe it? It just evened. It brought pleasure around more easily to the entire room.
Because where you may be able to orient one sub so you're one listening position is perfect and others can be good, but maybe not as good. And then, but when you have two, then all of a sudden that response becomes maybe not perfect, but pretty awesome anywhere you're sitting in the room. And that's the main reason, because even though that's a big room, one of those has plenty of firepower for it.
Yeah, this room's about 20 by 20, and there are two couches, right? There's a back deck that I used to say I don't care about because I'll never be sitting there, but then over time you find you do. So I do find myself looking to provide that experience for everyone in the room. And then, of course, my intention was, I wanted to try the diagonal placement in each corner of the room, or try the side firing. But I never got around to it because, frankly, this really delivered a lot. So I never got around to it. I still want to, but, I'm going to need a day to slide these suckers around the room and try to continue to, play with.
It does take some
right
effort to move around the 16 Ultras. There are some effort involved with moving the 16 Ultras. And the other thing I wanted to ask, I believe you went from.
There's a story behind the Howard Stern show. I had heard that Gary Delabate had some of our stuff, and he was very plugged in. He's Baba Booey, and he was very plugged in the New York audiophile community. So I reached out to someone who knew us both, and connected up with him, and he's super enthusiastic about great sound and stuff. And in fact, his son DJ uses it too. So we ended up kind of advertising on Howard Stern just from that enthusiasm that they had.
Yeah, I got to walk around CES one year with Gary and John Hine, and he is, obviously a big enthusiast and vinyl lover, and has a home theater that he talks about on the show sometimes. So, if I'm not mistaken, I might have actually reached out to him initially to ask him about his experience with SVS. And then, I pulled the trigger.
Reach out to him, which made me happy to have him as a friend.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
There's a fast and furious questions coming about your setup, and we don't have time for all of them, but we might just have to do a separate segment on that sometime. But I did want to ask quickly about the prime elevations, because I believe you went from 2 to 4. Am I right, or did you start with 4? And just what was sort of that upgrade like, or what was adding the elevations, since we were talking about Atmos, how did that impact your performance?
So I really do have to say, and I've spent a fair amount of time with I think we call them Atmos enabled, where it's ceiling reflective speakers as well. And I understand why folks do that. And it's definitely a way to approximate the experience. But for me, the down firing is absolutely the way to go. And when it comes to appreciating the benefit, the benefits of Atmos and immersive, you really have to have, if you're talking to me and I'm a half lunatic, you have to add heights to appreciate the third dimension. That's what we're talking about. So 2 is great, 4 is better, more is more, so I went right in with 4, and it's just it's night and day, the difference between an approximated effect. I think what I had was I had two height reflectives at the start.
Yeah,
and then I went
difference between that. That's probably the biggest difference you notice, is going from that to, even 2 heights from going from the searing effect. It's night and day.
Yeah. I do recommend the 4 heights if you have the depth for it, because it gives that ability to separate and give some movement to what's happening overhead. And that really is the thing that gets your head and your brain into the third dimension.
You get immersed. Yeah.
The immersive side of the experience, for sure.
I like that. The third dimension.
Don't skimp on the heights. Again, more is more. I'm also doing front wides, which I find to be incredibly important real estate when it comes to music, and when it comes to video, depending on how it was mixed. Front wides, I think, are essential part of the experience.
Well, I feel like we could do a whole broadcast just on diagnosing your system and talking about the room treatments too. I mean, people are always asking about the room treatments. So
hit me up.
maybe
I welcome the questions if folks want to, ask any questions about the specifics of my system. I welcome it.
Maybe come back if you don't mind, Roey. This has been
come
great.
back.
We only scratched the surface.
Yeah. That's Gary. Gary's very elegant way of telling me to stop talking about it.
No,
he's that good. He's that
not
good.
elegant at all. But
we'll save it for the next time, Roey. Wink, wink.
I did want to throw out a little known trivia fact about Mr. Roey Hershkovitz, only because that it involves one of my favorite songwriters and vocalists of all time. He's actually married to Lisa Loeb, and I think a lot of people probably had boyhood crushes, and I hope that doesn't offend you, Lisa Loeb. I know at least 5 people at our company are like, they have the biggest crush on her. But too. That's a cool little tidbit there that I don't think everyone knew. But she's also got a new album out that I think we could all appreciate in these times. It's called A Simple Trick to Happiness. So if you haven't listened to it, check it out. I'm sure it's on all the streaming services. Anything you want to throw out there about her new album?
Yeah, it's terrific. It's really it's great, and you're right. It is very appropriate to the times that we're in right now. A Simple Trick to Happiness. Check it out.
I'm going to check that out. I did not know about it. I should have done homework.
And we will add it to our SVS Audiophile Happy Hour playlist too. Some of the deep tracks from there. So again, Roey, we greatly appreciate you joining us today. Hopefully we'll be able to have you back again.
Absolutely, I love these nerdy conversations. I can do this all day, so glad to do it. Glad to do it anytime. If anybody has any questions, for me, like I said about the specifics, hit me up, and I'm happy to come back and show you a different space here and do it again.
We'll do your 2-channel system. You have a tube-based 2-channel system.
Yeah, right? I did. Right, that's right. I did gloss over my vintage tube 2-channel audio research. SP8 into a reference 75 into a pair of electrostatic speakers, acoustats, and that's all my dad's old system that I then took here in LA and had reworked here in town by Gary Garfield, and it's really a wonderful and different way to experience music.
Well, awesome. We can't wait to get an experience at Capitol Studios there. Hopefully we'll be able to visit sometime. Thank you again for joining us, and look forward to having you back.
Great. Good to see y'all.
Good to see you.
That
was fun.
Wow, that was illuminating. I mean, I feel like we could just pick any random home theater and then put it on the screen and just talk about what's great, what's interesting about it.
That was more than a random home theater. He's modest. I mean, that's a kicking home theater and very, very well set up. So I'm sure he enjoys it.
Thought process behind Atmos music, I had no idea that was geeky for me. I loved hearing that.
I think we're due for another giveaway, Nick.
We're ready for a giveaway of the SVS Prime Wireless Sound Base. This is our wonderful 300-watt 2-channel wireless streaming amplifier. And our winner is coming from Facebook, Justin Hahn. Justin Hahn, congratulations. You're going to be rocking a new Prime Wireless Sound Base with your speakers. Vince will be reaching out to you. Congratulations, Justin.
So, and you, by the way, we never plug, but Soundbase and Prime Wireless speakers that are they coming up, or they already were given away? Those can stream in high resolution, since we've been talking about high res streaming.
Good point. But we're not going to go down the rabbit hole talking about DACs tonight, are we?
We felt like we got too deep into DACs last time.
We do love our DACs, and we put great DACs in our products, but this is not the time for it. But there is a topic that I think is sort of relevant to almost anyone who may just be getting into the hobby. And we see questions that are sort of along this line. But Larry, I thought maybe you could start us off with some insights, about if you're just starting to build a home theater. What are the important things to consider? Is there a hierarchy of what products you need to look at first? What's sort of the philosophy there that you can share with us?
Well, to me, the kind of brains of the system go to the receiver, because that's where everything's going to be powered. That's where everything's going to be connected. That's really where the kind of lifeblood of the system is, around the speakers and everything as well. So, after you've kind of got your room mapped out and figure out what you got to do, you've got to look at that. And I get a lot of questions about what I look for, and it's typically connectivity, it's power, it's whether the receiver is warm or neutral in sound. And so there's a lot of things to kind of take into effect. And so I do have some brand preferences, and I don't think we'll dive into that here, but something that's consistent and easy to set up for a lot of people too. And if you're not really an avid audiophile, like I know not everybody in this is, it's finding something that's in your happy medium and maybe go a little above that, because the receiver is going to be something that will grow with you over time too. And then you can add speakers to it. You can upgrade your TV. You can add it your Blu-ray player, 4K player. But to me, the lifeblood is the receiver on top of the speakers.
Gary, would you agree with that?
I would probably say it's very much related to the person's situation, what their priorities are. Some people want to have a full-on theater right now. And so for them, they should, whatever their budget is, they should make that fit. I think it's really good if you can do it with separate components instead of a soundbar, because then you can one by one upgrade the different components. And that's kind of the fun journey of being an audiophile or a home theater enthusiast, is that you can one by one do that. In fact, I've done this a long time, and I know that people that don't have a gajillion dollars to get started right away, that they start with a good receiver and they don't necessarily use it to its full capability. Like, for example, have a nice receiver and a pair of speakers, then add the subwoofer, then add the center, then add the effects. And you can piece by piece, affordably within your budget, create a really awesome home theater. So that's kind of the way I would do it. But each person is different. I would respect different people's priorities. I do agree with Larry that the receiver is the brains, but I also would say that because of that, you probably, if you can help it, don't want a 10-year-old receiver. Your timeline for a receiver probably is going to be a little shorter, whereas for a great pair of speakers or a great subwoofer, it's probably going to be a valid purchase years down the road.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's an underrated aspect of investing in high performance audio equipment, especially speakers and subwoofers. I mean, that's technology that's going to last you 10, 15 years if you take care of it. Whereas so much of today's technology is disposable. You get a smartphone, you drop $1,000 on it, you're throwing it away in 2 years. These are products that will last a long time. And I know we sort of keyed in on the AV receiver. Are there specific features, aspects of the AV receiver you should look at if that is one of the first things that you're going to purchase? And Larry, I'll look to you because I know you're on the front lines here educating people about this. So what are some of the key features people should be looking at?
Well, future compatibility. So right now I'm going to say probably look at 4K, 8K capable receivers, something that's got as many HDMI connections as possible if you're like me and have a ton of connectivity devices that you're going to be hooking up. Something that you're comfortable with setting up. So I tend to be a fan of the Odyssey setup because it's extremely consistent across all the products in that family. And something
I agree with Larry on that.
Yeah, I mean,
without slanting it to one brand or another, I am a fan of how Odyssey works.
Yeah, and we tend to request those type of products at our events just because we know exactly how they sound with all of our speakers and subwoofers. And they're consistent, whether it's an entry-level product with Odyssey or the top of the line. They do the same kind of thing. And then for me, it's just something that's also maybe a little bit easier for my family to use, but that's also kind of where remotes come into play too.
Yeah, and if you're looking at power, and if you want to do a 7.1.2 or 2.2, depending on how you're defining it, I mean, are you looking for a certain wattage per channel, or does it really depend on the speakers? What is the determining factor there?
But Nick, can I riff off of one thing Larry said, which I totally agree with?
I would love that.
I always say this to people, and I think it's so important. So often, without being like sexist, there's one person in the house that's really into this stuff, and others may be like more need to be lured into it. And what Larry said is I totally agree with, which is set the system up so that everyone in the house can use it and feels comfortable using it. And then they will become your partners in crime to enjoy it. And my kids are, and my wife, I don't travel right now because of COVID, but I'm on the road a lot in normal times. And my family uses our home theater and our we have a multi-zone prime wireless system. They use it more than I do, but I made sure that it was something they're comfortable operating, and nobody asks my permission to do it. And because of that, they're the ones that are kind of nagging me, hey, when are we going to upgrade this? When are we going to upgrade that? They're totally all in with the fun of it.
It's so funny. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. How do you engage, other people in your family or friends who may not really get, high performance audio? And I think that ease of use is such an important factor, because if they don't know how to turn stuff on, it's like they're never going to get behind how great it sounds, because they can never watch it or listen to it on their own terms. And so, as much as it's about, okay, sit down, everyone, we're going to watch, this family show, and you're the one setting it up, but don't touch the settings. There's a certain level of like, well, I don't feel safe being in this room, when I could screw something up. But when you make it so easy and you can, have a little bit less of a learning curve for the rest of the family to enjoy it, that makes a huge difference. So I think that's an important insight that you guys brought up there.
Yeah, my kids have been able to use every system we've had since they're, essentially 2 years old. And we made a joke that my oldest is 17, and he's been able to hook stuff up since he was 2 years old as well. But they've all known how to use the remote systems we put into place. So I think that's just as important as the entire experience.
Well, there's a question about what I just know. I'm watching the comments. There's a question about what remote we use. I tend, this is very old school, but I find it easier to just have 4 or 5 remotes on the table and grab the one that's the right one. But I will say I probably so. I will say I have the Harmony remote with that I don't know if it's top of the line, but it goes on sale at Best Buy every couple of weeks, and it's usually like $350 or something, but you can get it for like $150, and it will control all your stuff, and you can teach it step-by-step controls so that it switches different inputs one after another and makes everything work well. So I will endorse Harmony.
Absolutely.
Check Harmony as a good universal remote that's not too expensive.
Well, speaking for my family, they're waiting for the day when they can just walk into the room and say, play Little Mermaid on my Dolby Atmos home theater system in voice control, and it all just come together. So I think, with some of the remotes that are coming out, that day is not far away. And I think the technology exists. It's just a little out of reach for a lot of people currently. So hopefully it's coming sooner than later. And, that ease of use becomes, a non-factor now.
Now, before the last giveaway, I do have one thing. I wanted to announce something about our next show. So I know it's
do the giveaway
3 minutes before, so you tell me.
Can we do a teaser after the last giveaway?
I'm thinking some people switch out after the last giveaway, so I'm thinking
You're probably right. So why don't you, whatever you want to put, a little sizzling take you want to offer now, it couldn't be a better time.
Are you ready now? I guess we're getting close to closing.
Yeah, we're winding down. So whatever you want to throw out there for a hot take, go for it.
Okay, so I have always said, and Nick says, quit reminding people this. I have always said, hey, this is about a celebration of great sound with our community. This is not about, our stuff, our products. So just to prove the point, because I've been doing this a long time, we have as our guest 2 weeks from today, which is Thursday, August 20th, a legend in the speaker business, somebody who I admire, who I've known almost 30 years, Sandy Gross. Now, if you don't know that name, he's the guy who really is you hear Matthew Polk speakers, but Sandy is really the guy who was behind what drove Polk's success. He'll be modest in talking about that, but it's true. And then he left Polk and started Definitive Technology, another very high-level speaker brand. And then he left Definitive and went to Golden Ear, and that became a success. And he left Golden Ear, I guess, about a month or so ago. And we're dear friends. And I said, look, would you do this just for fun? He's not affiliated. He has nothing to do with SVS whatsoever. He's a friend and a great person to talk with. And I know that our community will learn a lot about great sound from Sandy and about what makes a great speaker. So I'm excited that he agreed to join our broadcast, and he has nothing to do with SVS speakers. So there you go.
I mean, aside from you, Gary, there's very few celebrities in the audio industry, so it's nice to.
You're the celebrity, and Larry.
But
Cindy,
I'm jazzed.
Cindy is a legend, and
he truly
cool.
is. And I think it's awesome that we'll be able to bring him on and talk about some of that legacy. Before we get to our closing remarks, we will do our last giveaway here, which, as we mentioned, is our award-winning SB 2000 Pro subwoofer, our most popular model currently. And the winner of our SB 2000 Pro is John Vargo from Facebook. John, congratulations. Your neighbor's going to love you a lot more, and you're going to have some thump in your system. So congratulations, John. As Gary mentioned, next broadcast will be Thursday, August 20th at 6 p.m. Eastern time per the normal. Want to say thank you to Mr. Roey Hershkovitz for joining us today. Thought he had a lot of cool insights. He may be coming back now when he makes some more additions to that home theater and dive into the 2-channel system. But again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We look forward to coming back here in a couple weeks and sharing some knowledge and enjoying time with you. So thanks all.
Thanks to everybody for these great comments. Nick, you were running fast, and I'm sure you didn't get to see them all, but they were really good comments tonight and a lot of enthusiasm. As always, I had so much fun doing this. So thanks to our community.
Yep, and check out the playlist too. That was something you guys built, and it's phenomenal. So I encourage you all to check it out and look out for that link being posted soon. So we're tuning out here. Thanks, guys.
See you 2 weeks.